going to learn how to paper mache a balloon. Before you get started, there are a few things you need to consider. First of all, your balloon is going to dry better if it's hung up by the little belly button here instead of sitting on a table. If it dries while sitting on a table, it's gonna develop a flat spot. And it's also not gonna dry thoroughly. Paper mache paste dries by evaporating the water into the air and just leaving behind the flour, salt, and cornstarch. But if you have it on a surface for a long period of time, the water can't evaporate from that spot. And so it stays wet. And if it stays wet for too long, it grows mold, and you don't want that. So I'm setting up a hanging station with a binder clip. I'm just gonna run a string through a binder clip. I'm gonna hang this string from the rod in my laundry room. You can hang it anywhere you want, as long as it's a place where it's not going to be disturbed for at least a day. My string is hung, I'm ready to paper mache. I can do this just plain flat on a table, but it's helpful to have some sort of dish with a lip to put it in so that it doesn't wiggle around all over the place. I'm going to use this paper mache paste that I made a few days ago. I'm going to start just by stirring it up because it's a little bit separated. The flour tends to sink to the bottom and the water tends to rise to the top. Good. I'll take a piece of paper, rub my paper with the paste mixture, making sure I'm getting both sides and both ends, and I'll place it on my balloon and smooth it flat. I'm going to keep going to cover the entire surface of the balloon except this belly button. Remember, that's what I'm going to hang it from. So I want that to stick out. It will create a little bit of a hole, but that's super easy to cover later. As I paper mache this guy, I'm moving in a crisscross pattern. You'll notice my balloon is trying to escape. Every paper that I'm doing crosses over another one. It's very tempting to do them in a neat pattern, like this. That's actually not very strong. As I go that I'm trying to put the white side up. That makes a nicer surface for painting. So these papers with the Sharpie on, they're fine for a first layer, but I definitely want white pieces on top to cover over those Sharpie marks. for any holes. There's one. And it's time for my second layer. You might notice that the color of the balloon shows through faintly in a number of different spots. Those are the weakest spots, and I need to make sure I reinforce them with another layer. I'm gonna pick out the pieces of paper now that have just a plain white side and cover over my papers that have Sharpie on them. You'll probably be tempted to stop paper macheing too soon. What you have to bear in mind is that one layer is really, really weak, and your balloon will collapse with the slightest pressure. Really, you want 3 or 4 different layers of paper on your balloon. And you want to do this while it's wet. So you could start out, take an hour break and come back to it, or start in the morning and come back to it in the evening, but you really don't want to do it 3 days later. Looks like I have my balloon covered now with 2 layers, and this would be okay, but I'm going to do a 3rd layer because I really want this balloon to be strong when it dries. I'm feeling around my balloon for any spots that might seem weak. I'm adding another piece of paper. If you observe carefully with your fingers, you'll be able to find those weak spots. Looks good to go. Now I'm going to go hang it up and let it dry.